Hello, bookworms! Welcome back to the Bonafide Bookworm. I'm your host, Rachel, and if you're here to read along with me and improve your English, or for a book review, or movie review, or show review. So, no reviews actually today, even though I mentioned all that. We're just going to jump right back into our book, just because I really like this book. I am reading, personally, I'm reading Practical Magic. They're finally doing a sequel to that movie. If you've never watched it, it's a Nicole Kidman, Sandra Bullock movie. It came out in the 90s, I think the 90s, maybe early 2000s. I'll have to double check. Oh, and I forgot that I was supposed to look up information about the different laws with animal abuse. So I'll make a mental note to try to get back to that. But I am going to try and record a few episodes today. So here we go. We are reading Saving Sadie by Joal, Derse, Dauer with Elizabeth Ridley. And when we left off, Jo had decided to take Sadie to her home because when she took Sadie to her daughter suggested that they euthanize Sadie, and she does not want to do that. So she has Sadie out in her garage, and she has gone out there to lay down with her and keep Sadie company. We're on page 31. When I woke a few hours later, the sun was up, and it was clear that Sadie had soiled herself again in the night. She seemed completely mortified, with her tipped chin and downcast eyes, barely able to look at me as I sat up in my sleeping bag and glanced at her. "Don't worry, girl," I said. "We'll figure this out." I stood and stretched my aching back, feeling the pain not only there but also in my arms, shoulders, neck, everywhere, not just from sleeping on the garage floor, but from constantly lifting and carrying Sadie the previous day. I opened the garage and carried Sadie outside, setting her down in the cool, crisp grass, still glittering with glossy beads of morning dew. I hoped she might relieve herself, but again, nothing happened. At least I had made one decision during the night. I was not going to take Sadie back to the hospital in Chicago to be euthanized. Not until we got another professional opinion, this time from Dr. Jody. I had been taking Sparky and my other animals to Dr. Jody Greenstern at the Animal Doctor Holistic Veterinary Complex for years. If anyone could offer Sadie some hope, it was Dr. Jody. Fortunately, her clinic was almost walking distance from my house, and I was able to get an appointment right away. So it was still only mid-morning when I bundled Sadie back into my SUV, drove to the clinic, and carried Sadie into one of Dr. Jody's exam rooms. More than simply my vet, over time Jody had become a friend, and as she entered the room, I immediately felt at ease. A caring, compassionate vet committed to taking a holistic, whole animal approach to her patients. She seemed to sense right away not only that Sadie was a special creature, but also that she was quickly becoming special to me. Dr. Jody's exam confirmed what the other vets had said. Sadie had virtually no rectal tone and also could not empty her bladder properly. "So her only hope then is a lifetime of doggy diapers?" I said sadly. "Not necessarily," Dr. Jody replied as her warm brown eyes brightened and she tucked a loose brown curl behind her ear. "There's a way you can help her urinate if you're comfortable doing it." She proceeded to demonstrate for me. You straddle her like this," she explained, standing over Sadie with Sadie centered between her legs, Sadie's head facing forward. Then take both of your palms with your fingers extended, lift her back in slightly upward, and gently push on both sides of her abdomen until the urine is expressed. Then she beckoned me to come closer and try it. Sadie seemed not to mind this rather intimate indignity, and sure enough, the procedure worked. "You would need to do this for her several times a day," Dr. Jody warned. That thought was both hopeful and daunting. How could I, or anyone else for that matter, who worked full-time and had a social life, be able to help the dog urinate several times a day? And of course, this still only addressed half the problem. "What about the fecal incontinence?" I asked with trepidation. Dr. Jody stroked her chin. "I think we can handle that through her diet alone. Soften the stool and make it easier for her to relieve herself." This was better news than I expected, but I said nothing as Dr. Jody continued examining Sadie, listening to her heart and lungs, peering into her eyes and ears, evaluating her nerves, strength, and muscle tone, and carefully noting the position and depth of Sadie's gunshot wounds and other injuries, including the sore on her back paw and the cyst near her tail. I could see that Dr. Jody was quickly developing a rapport with Sadie, and I appreciated how much time and attention she was lavishing on a dog that at that point belonged to no one. Sadie, for her part, remained a model patient, never barking, flinching, or complaining, no matter what she was asked to endure. My heart was pounding as Dr. Jody finished the exam and prepared to deliver her verdict. I had already explained that Dr. Rudowski recommended getting Sadie a cart, while Jamie Lynn, with her colleague, proposed euthanasia as the best and most humane option. But what do you think? I asked carefully. Is there any hope for Sadie? I believe we can help her, Dr. Jody said with confidence. I think we can make her better, improve her quality of life. I say let's give her a chance. My spirits soared. Dr. Jody must have seen my face light up because she quickly added, "Understand, Joel, when I say we can help her, I mean you and me working together. Make no mistake, this would be a massive undertaking." I caught a flash of steel beneath the twinkle in her eye. Few people could cope with an animal with this level of overwhelming special needs. But if anyone can handle it, Joel, I know you can. The question is, do you want to take this on? I don't know, really, I answered honestly, stroking Sadie and rubbing behind her ears, grateful she wasn't able to understand our conversation. She's a beautiful dog, and I believe she deserves the chance to walk again, but it's a lot to consider. If I say yes, what would be the next steps? Dr. Jody described her proposed plan. The bullet in Sadie's forehead was an immediate concern. She suggested applying a poultice several times a day to try to draw it out. She held Sadie's skull and pressed her thumbs aside the wound to demonstrate. It appears that the bullet is lodged in the tissue beneath the skin rather than in the bone, which is good news, she explained. And if the poultice doesn't work, surgery to remove the bullet should be possible at some point in the near future. What about the bullet in her back? I asked hopefully. Dr. Jody shook her head. I'm afraid the bullet and the shrapnel in her spine are too deeply embedded to make surgical extraction an option. But I think we should consider possibly amputating Sadie's left rear leg. That surprised me. Really? I asked. Yes, she replied. If we can strengthen and build up her right rear leg and then amputate the left, she might be able to walk again on 3 legs. Let me show you what I mean. Dr. Jody showed me how when Sadie tried to push herself upright and walk, her left rear leg automatically crossed underneath her body, like a reflex, getting in the way of the other legs and preventing her from walking. Amputation could potentially fix this, Dr. Jody explained. Dr. Jody went on to describe the overall treatment plan as she envisioned it, encompassing therapy, holistic medications, and a special diet, a possible CT scan to further assess Sadie's injuries, swimming 3 times a week, acupuncture twice a week, neuroplex and neutrophins for nerve function, soaking in essential oils, a raw protein diet of turkey, rabbit, and beef to minimize stool and increase muscle mass, Nature's Variety probiotics, Merrick high-quality dog food to mix with her other food, a vet wrap for the sore on her foot where it dragged when she tried to walk, oatmeal and aloe shampoo and conditioner, nature-rich soap, and the Chinese herb Yunnan Bio. I don't know if I said that right. Phew, not only would the bill for all this be significant, my head spun as I tried to fathom the time, energy, and effort needed to implement such a regimen. If I did adopt Sadie, and in my mind this was still an absolute if, how could I possibly handle what sounded like a full-time commitment, caring for such a desperately needy dog? And yet, here was Dr. Jody, not making any long-term promises, but at least offering some hope. Hope, the thing I had desired most for Sadie. In Dr. Jody, I'd found someone willing to give Sadie a chance. Look, I know this is a lot to take in, Dr. Jody said. Why don't you go home and take some time to think things over? If you do decide to go forward with this, come back to see me in a few days. We'll check on Sadie's progress and begin the next steps." That sounded like a good plan. "I don't have to be Sadie's forever mom," I reasoned. "Perhaps I could just rehab her and get her walking again." Dr. Jody gave me a powder and showed me how to mix it with water to make a poultice and apply it to Sadie's forehead, which I was to do twice a day in hopes of extracting the blood. She also showed me how to clean, treat, and bandage the sore on Sadie's back paw. As I scooped up Sadie and carried her back to my SUV, she felt warm and safe in my arms, and my mood brightened. "Good girl, Sadie," I whispered in her ear. "I'm proud of you. You were an absolute star in there." I had just settled myself behind the wheel when my cell phone rang. It was Jamie Lynn, calling from the hospital in Chicago. "Have you thought any more about the euthanasia?" she asked. My heart stopped, even though her voice was kind. We've got an opening if you'd like to bring her in later this morning." I knew Jamie Lynn meant well. She was concerned about me, both as a vet and as a daughter, and she perhaps understood better than anyone the heartbreak that was likely ahead of me if I decided to keep Sadie. Still, hearing her say those words was painful. "I'm giving it a week," I said, surprising even myself with my snap decision. "I'm going to see how Sadie and I handle the next 7 days. If after 1 week I decide this isn't workable, I will have her euthanized. But at least I'll have given Sadie the best darn week of her life." I had tears in my eyes as I pulled out of the parking lot and onto busy Janesville Road. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Sadie sitting up, nose pressed to the window, watching intently as the world flew by. I knew I had some serious decisions to make, but one thing was already certain in my mind. Sadie was never, ever going back to live out her days in an animal shelter. Either I would commit to rehabbing her and getting her walking again, or I would have her put down if it became clear that her life would be too painful and too limiting for her to endure. Even so, I seriously questioned whether I had the physical, emotional, and financial resources to care for a dog that had so much wrong with her. At that moment, all Sadie and I had was a thimbleful of hope. But sometimes, even just a thimbleful of hope is enough to keep you going. So we're going to stop there. I know this is a short one today. It's just kind of how the book stopped. So yeah, I'm curious, what would you all do in Joel's situation? Would you have even taken Sadie out of the shelter to begin with, and then when you took her to 2 doctors, would you have euthanized her, or would you give her a week? So yeah, we'll find out. Leave comments. I'd like to know what you all thought, or what you would do in that same situation. And wherever you're at, I hope it's great. I hope you have a great day, week, month, year, and I hope you come back. Bye.